Hey everyone, hope you're well. So today we're going to be checking out this monster Marshall. So Wish Your Swing Was Mine. It's the brand new modified by Marshall 1959 Plexi amp. I've got it on loan for a little bit from Ellis and very thankful. So I'm running it through this 4x12 cab. This actually is mine. It's a 1960A JCM 900 cab in white. But basically the rig today is going to be purely Gibson guitars, Marshall amps. So I'm going to have a lot of fun. Probably going to blow my ears off on this. These amps are known for being, ridiculously loud and powerful. But I'm looking forward to showing you a couple of sounds, plugging a few different guitars in, and talking through the amp basically. So the setup for today, like I said, it's going to be guitar straight in to the amp basically. I might add a tube screamer later on, but if I do, I'll annotate that on the screen. So in terms of recording, I'm just capturing this with a microphone on the cab that you can see here, hopefully on camera. So that is an SM57. That's going straight into my interface, straight into my door. There's no EQ. I'm literally doing nothing to it. So what you're hearing is what I'm hearing in the room, but, a lot quieter than it actually is here because it's very loud at the moment. So I'm having to film this whilst the neighbours have gone out, obviously. Fingers crossed it stays that way and they don't come back soon. But yeah, let's take a close-up of the control panel and talk about the different features we've got on this amp. So, controls across the front. We have the on-off switch, the standby, the little pilot light indicator. We've got presence, bass, middle treble, volume 1, volume 2, and the best feature, this beauty here. So that is a master volume mod. Now, back in the day, you couldn't get any high gain out of these amps at all. So, well, without cranking them. Now, I'm still not able to crank it because it's painfully loud, but this does allow us to bring the master volume down and drive the amp a bit harder. So yeah, there's a few little dip switches here. We've got a bright switch, off and on, a clip, and a clip 1 and 2. And again, I'll go through this later on in the video, and this is going to allow us to get a lot more of a saturated tone out of this amp. Again, we're not going to be going for a high gain as modern standards, but this is the amp that's going to sound like classic rock basically, and these modifications are going to allow me to get a few more, I'd like to say house friendly, but it's still pretty loud to be fair, a few more higher gain options at not peeling the paint off the walls volume basically. So very excited to plug this in. Alright, let's get some SG tones. Right, let's grab the Les Paul. Alright, got the Les Paul, got classic 57 pickups in this one, solid mahogany body, no maple cap on this, tuned down a half step to E flat. Let's hear some riffs. Alright, I'm just going to turn on an MXR carbon copy. There's no effects loop in this amp, just like the old school ones. So that's just going straight into the front. So it's literally guitar, cable into the MXR, straight into the front end. So let's add a bit of ambience. So the most exciting thing for most people wanting to buy this is this master volume control, and this is actually going to allow us to get a fatter, thicker guitar tone at a lower volume. Traditionally with a Plexi, you'd have to absolutely crank it to be peeling the paint off the wall sort of territory to get any kind of usable rock tone out of it. But again, not the case now. So I believe this master volume has been put pre-tone stack, and they've done that to allow us to get essentially a fatter guitar tone at a lower volume. So again, it's not really something I can show you a comparison because I'm not willing to destroy my ears too much. But trust me, it should be on all Plexis really. So this is genius. So I've got the volume, on my volumes here. They're fairly high, normally somewhere between 6 and 8, and then here the actual master volume is barely at 1. I'll get a close up if you want to see that. But like I said, it's pretty loud. A full day of filming, my ears are going to be hurting after this, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it for the tone. So that's the first modification. I think that's the most exciting mod. The next mod I can show you is this bright switch. So I'll do a few before and afterwards, but a lot of people, if you played a Marshall Plexi, you'll know how kind of like brutal they are. You tend to find it's the really, really good players that play the Plexis, and most of the players kind of would prefer an 800 or something with a bit more gain, or they'd be putting pedals, in front of it. But it's always the pro players, the guys that can really play and have got it in the fingers. They always like the Plexis. A lot of my heroes being the 80s guys, whether it's George Lynch or Eddie Van Halen. I know they had all sorts going on, but a lot of them on the early records were Plexis, again, modified. But yeah, essentially on the old Plexis, they were very, very bright sounding amps and very sparkly clean, very percussive until you start cranking them up. And this switch here allows us to essentially take what we call the bright cap out of the circuit. So I'm just going to demonstrate that for you. So again, just got my Les Paul straight in, no pedals. That was my tuner on the floor and just kicking off. So let's take it off standby. Good idea, right? There we go. Okay, nice clean bright sound there. So I'm going to flick the bright switch across. You hear it's muffled it or taken the sharpness out of it, so it's much usable at a lower volume. We've got a lot more kind of fullness to the sound again. If I play a lick and go between the two. Again, in the room, it's very piercing. Much softer on the ears there. So again, it's worth saying that if you've got the volume a bit higher up, that brightness kind of blends out of the sound of the amp, and I'll just demonstrate that. So I'm going to flick across back to it disengaged. It's very bright. So bring the volume up here, you get a bit more fatness, and that brightness kind of, you lose the brightness. With the volume a lot higher up, so about, let's say, put it to 8 or so, and I flick the switch between the two, you'll hear less of a change between the positions. Whereas before, with it much lower, there's definitely a big difference. Very bright there. Okay, so that's just a cool feature. I think a lot of people, if you're like a bluesy noodler like myself, will enjoy that feature. So you can get kind of not rip your face off sort of clean blues tones, So quite a shocking difference there. It's cool to see. Okay, so the next switch we've got, at the moment it's to the left. Again, I'll get a close-up. As I push it to the right, this is going to add a bit of clipping to the amp. So once you flick this across, you've got two options. You can actually hear the hiss increase there. So we've got two levels of clipping. Once we flick across, we've got the first setting, slightly less, and then the second setting, slightly more, is how I think of it. So the setting to the left is a softer clipping. I guess this would be like putting a slight boost in front of the amplifier, and then to the second setting on to the right hand side, it's a harder form of clipping, so you get a lot more distortion out of that. I've had a good play with this already, and I love the sound of both of them. Again, I think it depends what guitar you're going to be plugging in, but let me just demonstrate that. So here's the amp just set as normal, no clipping. I'm going to flick across to clipping 1. It's going to get a bit louder, so here's my reference tone again. Okay, love the sound of that. If I go across to clipping 2, there's a little bit of a volume drop here, but a lot more thickness to the sound, a lot more higher gain. So if I just bring the volume level up there a touch, to match what we had before, that's clipping number 2 now. Classic, nice and bright sounding, enough grit there to be able to dig in and get those kind of 80s riffs. So yeah, let's try a bit more. I'll throw a tube screamer in front of that in a second as well. Tube screamer. Okay, so essentially turn all the mods off, just rolled the volume on channel 1 down a little bit just to clean it up a little, and rolling my volume of the guitar down, and this shows you how well the Plexi cleans up, so here goes. Beautifully responsive there. So I was doing a bit between the fingers and the pick, and you can really hear the difference. And obviously, as I plug different guitars in throughout this video, again, I'm hoping you'll hear the difference as well. In the room, it's just immense. I'm loving it. I'm sure my ears aren't loving it, and come later on, I'm sure I'll be feeling it. But at the moment, it's just magic. So yeah, what I'm doing now with this sort of cleanish tone, I'm just going to notch the volume up on input 1 here, on channel 1 here. I'm just going to get kind of a bluesier sound going on here. So let's see what it sounds like. Alright, gorgeous tones there, love that. So what I'll do now, I'm going to grab the Kramer, or one of the Kramers, and go down to E flat, go back to that second clipping stage, and I think we'll play some 80s rock riffs for that. Here goes. Wow. Okay, so I'm in drop D. I've got the second clipping in. No true tube scream on there at all. Lost for words a bit. Sounds awesome. So there's plenty of fatness there. Easy enough to get pinch harmonics. I don't really think you need a tube screamer with this type of sound. It's thick enough for my taste anyway. But I'll put one on for a bit of lead work. See what it sounds like. Okay, I take it back. The tube screamer sounds fantastic. Let's have a bit more. So what's the verdict on this amp then? Well, I think you can see with the playing, I had a lot of fun today. My ears are pretty fatigued, but it's all about having fun and blasting it. I didn't want to use a load box today. I wanted to use a real cab, move some air, mic it up, go old school with it really. The volume was about just over 1, I'd say, on the master here. So obviously there's a lot more I can give, but you know, to be respectful in the house, this is about as much as I could get away with whilst the neighbours were out, essentially. But no, still able to have fun and get some tones. You just got to put into perspective. If this was a non-master volume, non-modified Plexi, it would have been clean all day long and spiky, and there would have been no fun. These modifications are a serious game changer. So if anyone's in the market for a Plexi, by far, I wouldn't even look at any others. This is the one to get. So yeah, I'm going to give my ears a rest now, and hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your favourite tone or your favourite playing example, and I'll catch you in another video. So thanks again for watching. See you soon.